Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So once again, we are blessed to be in a sacred place in Sri Vrindavan Dham on Parikrama. Just as, well, Lord Krishna, you could say, you might say, performed the first Parikrama when, after the whole pastime of the lifting of Govardhan Hill had concluded, Krishna took the Brajabasis on Parikrama around Giriraj. Krishna is the Adi Guru. Adi Guru, he's the first and forever, the one who enlightens all of us in love of him and his beloved consort, Srimati Radharani. So he sets the example in many ways when he comes here. So he did the Govardhan Parikrama. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also came to Vrindavan, as you know, and he did Parikrama not only around Govardhan Hill, but he did Parikrama around, through the 12 forests of Vrindavan, to the 12 forests of Vrindavan. And similarly, all the great saints, let us be specific, the great acharyas in our disciplic succession, at one time or another, most of them also performed Parikrama here. So important to perform the Parikrama. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in particular, would organize massive Parikramas in Vrindavan. I was told that he had 50,000 disciples. And every Kartik, he would, for us, he would take many or most of those disciples on Parikrama around Vrindavan. Our Srila Prabhupada participated in those Parikramas. We don't hear so much detail, but wouldn't it be nice if we could hear what Prabhupada did every minute of his life? But we just have a summary, which isn't enough for us, I suppose, in this lifetime to hear and dedicate our lives to Srila Prabhupada. But we know he was on Parikrama because he did share with us that one time he was on Parikrama at Radhakund, and that's where his Guru Maharaj, his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada, gave him the instruction that, well, he noted that in the Bagh Bazaar in Calcutta, or Kolkata, they had acquired, or they had built a very beautiful temple, but unfortunately there was a struggle for which I want this room, you can have that room, and there was some bickering, fighting going on, in that temple. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he said to Prabhupada, I would sell that temple, or I will sell that temple, and with that money I'll buy paper and a publishing press, and I'll just print books. But he didn't do, because temples, of course, are very important. He could see in the future, but he was stressing the importance of sharing our good fortune with others, Vaishnavas, because the topmost quality, the crest jewel of all a devotee's good qualities, and devotees have, it's sometimes described, all the good qualities of the demigods. The crown jewel is compassion. Other transcendentalists, with all due respect, we honor them for their turning their back on material existence and engaging in some spiritual process. But the jnanis and the yogis, the tyagis, the Mayavadis, they're not so interested in sharing their the benefits of their practice with others. But a Vaishnava, practically from the first day, he or she walks into an ISKCON temple, the next day they're out on Harinam. Because by going on Harinam, Sankirtan, one gets the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We get mercy by chanting Hare Krishna or japa, by having a kirtan in the temple. But Srinam Prabhu is particularly merciful to those who share him with others. Namad Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. There's no difference between the name of Krishna and Krishna himself. So the holy name is fully conscious. He's a person. Prabhupada said when you're chanting, Krishna's dancing on the tip of your tongue. So just like if you please a person, they want to reciprocate. A good-hearted person. So Krishna's the ever well-wisher, the well-wishing friend of every living entity. So if you take him on the streets and you distribute him through the Shabda Brahma, the sound vibration, he reciprocates. Sankirtan is the best education, it's the best school. Develop all the good qualities. And topmost amongst those qualities is sharing Krishna consciousness. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he gave an instruction to Prabhupada, which Prabhupada made his mission statement. It's kind of like the essence of what you want to do or you want to achieve in life. And he said, if you ever get money, you print books. So where was that done? That was on Purikrama. So we know that Prabhupada went on Purikrama. We also know that one time on Vrindavan Purikrama, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was going to give a class that evening. But this was in the midst, of course, of a Purikrama, which involves many activities. So one of the senior sannyasis was taking the devotees to Sheshashayi Vishnu. We visited that temple, that lake. Remember where Krishna appeared as Vishnu lying on Anantashesha, lying on Balaram, and Radharani, she took the form of Lakshmi, massaging his feet. It's a very nice pastime. That's actually where I got my beads. There's one old Baba there. He's 92. He said he'd been chanting on these beads since he was a young boy. So, I'm always looking for things that will stimulate my progress in Krishna consciousness. I'm way behind so many of my godbrothers and god sisters and all of you. So I asked, Baba, can I have your beads? This is the Brajabasis. They're very soft-hearted, and they share their ornaments with others. So you can see these beads, how almost a century they've been chanted on. That's why they're black and they're shiny. And you can see that this is red. There's red and black string throughout the whole thing here. Anyway. And the other day, one Baba who is chanting 192 rounds every day, I asked for his job, for his counter beads. And he's also had these since he was a boy. They're also shining. So like this, this is the compassion of Vaishnavas. They'll give everything for others. Can you imagine you've been chanting on beads your whole life and you give them to someone else, or your counter beads? It's because they have compassion. And how do they have compassion? Because they're shantushti, they're fully satisfied. They don't require anything. They already have everything. They have Krishna Bhakti. So they're willing to help you, to share with you to get that Krishna Bhakti. This is the nature of this. That's why Vrindavan is such a special place. The people here are they're full of Krishna consciousness. As Jesus said, my cup runneth over with love. when I was a boy and I'd go to church, I'd try to imagine a cup of love spilling over. I didn't get it. But now I get it. Which meant that Jesus wanted to share his Krishna consciousness with others. So Prabhupada received that instruction from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at Radhakund. And when it was announced one night that this senior sannyasi was going to take the devotees to Sheshashayi Vishnu Tirtha, that Leela Stan, it was also announced that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would be speaking that evening. So Prabhupada said, most of the devotees went to see Sheshashayi Vishnu, but some stayed back to hear Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we're very proud of Prabhupada. Acharya means one who sets an example. We have the Bhagavad, which is the philosophy, and we have the person Bhagavad. And Prabhupada said, either one is for becoming Krishna conscious, but if you have both, if you have the Bhagavad and you have the person Bhagavad, then you're most fortunate. So Prabhupada decided to stay back and hear from his Guru Maharaj. Because we know that when we come to the Dham, we're still carrying some of our baggage from previous lives. So that baggage, which takes the form of material desires, that is an obstacle, like a hurdle between ourselves and Krishna. And we can't see Krishna because of that. But it's said that if you come to the Dham, you can see the Dham, not with your eyes, but through your ears. A saintly person, he sees through his ears, not through his eyes. So in coming to the Dham, we should be intent on hearing from the sadhus who live there, who've experienced the Dham, and have made progress in Krishna consciousness. That's how we'll understand. Especially if your spiritual master is in the Dham. You don't want to spend time shopping in Loi Bazaar, but you want to go where he is speaking. Because the real connection between guru and disciple is through sound vibration. Baby is fully dependent on the mother in the womb. And what is the link? What is the nourishment the mother is giving the baby in the womb? Through the umbilical cord, the baby's getting fed. So our relationship with our spiritual master, the umbilical cord, is divya gyan. It's knowledge, transcendental knowledge. This nourishes the bhakti lata beach within our heart. So also in this way we can continue to associate with Srila Prabhupada, although he's not here present before our vision. He's very close if we can hear from him on a daily basis regularly. He said one time that his purports were his ecstasies. So that's very intimate if you can associate with someone and perceive their ecstasies. And that way we can understand that Prabhupada did give us everything, because he's talking about ecstasies. So Prabhupada, he remained behind, and he listened to the lecture. So we know he was on Parikrama. His Parikrama was hearing from his Guru Maharaj. Of course, I'm sure God enjoyed going to all the places, but that was his Parikrama, hearing from his spiritual master. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appreciated that. Later on, when Prabhupada was recommended for initiation, Prabhupada was an aspiring disciple for 10 years. 10 years he was an aspiring disciple. This is how it worked. And he was a householder and doing business, etc. He wasn't a sannyasi or a temple president or a pujari. So maybe it took a little bit longer. But But when it came time for Prabhupada's initiation, they asked Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this Abai is aspiring for initiations. Can you accept him? Immediately said yes. Surprised. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, because he hears nicely. Shravanam Kirtanam brings Krishna Smaranam, remembrance of Krishna. And although it seems Prabhupada came late, we sometimes say in English, saving the best for last. Like Prabhupada said one time in Detroit, I was in the lecture, he said, the children of your children will be pure devotees. So we were simultaneously happy and sad because it's going to take us a while. But happy because the movement will go on with the second and third and fourth generation. So yes, I'll accept him because he hears nicely. And when Prabhupada was initiated, he was a very good singer, and he could play harmonium very nicely. So I was told that the devotees always liked it when Prabhupada came to the temple and did bhajan and speak. And he was a good writer. When his Guru Maharaj heard that poem, adore ye all that holy day, that Vyasa Puja offering. Then he said, that should be published in the Harmonist, that Vyasa Puja offering. He said, you should write. You should write. And sometimes the elder sannyasis, I'll just be quite frank, they came one time to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and they said, you're giving so much association, so much time to this householder. We're sannyasis, we're doing all the preaching, he's just giving donations and leading a few bhajans. They were speaking about our Prabhupada. This Abai, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati became like a lion. He's described like that, the lion guru. He would preach so strongly and defeat the Mayavadis that when they heard he was coming to town, they would all leave. The Shringa Guru, they called Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. The Shringa Guru, we should be like that also. We should know the philosophy and practice it so that, we can counter the nonsensical philosophy of Kali Yuga and all its forms. So I said, this Abai, he's just, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati became like a lion. Stop that, he said. In the end, he will do everything. And he did. What's the proof? We're sitting here. Kalo Sutta Sambhavan. Everyone in Kali Yuga is a Sudra. But we're probably the worst of the worst, at least my generation. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that was our mantra. But Prabhupada turned the hippies into happies. How? He sat amongst us in Golden Gate Park. I know that I'm from San Francisco. I was a teenager in the 1960s. I won't go into detail because many of you are my students. But, on Hippie Hill, we used to go to Hippie Hill and do all kinds of nonsense. Prabhupada came and sat there, playing the bongo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. The sound vibration was so pure that it attracted all these downtrodden, like Prabhupada said, before coming to Krishna consciousness, you were all, unclean, didn't dress properly, addicted to so many sinful activities. You were morose, he would often say. You were morose. But now that you've taken to Krishna consciousness, you're dressed in beautiful saris and dhotis and kurtas with shaved heads and tilak. He said, you look just like you've come from Vaikuntha. You look just like you've come from Vaikuntha. And that's still continuing now today. At the Krishna House in Gainesville and in Houston, the specimens of Kali Yuga, the specimens of Kali Yuga, specimens like a spider or something, or a cockroach or something. They're all becoming beautiful Vaishnavas. I saw a beautiful, someone sent me a nice photo of the Krishna house in Houston, and new devotees. They look like angels. As bell metal is changed into gold by a mystical process, so a fallen conditioned soul in Kali Yuga can be changed into a beautiful Vaishnav or Vaishnavi by the process of Diksha, initiation. Prabhupada set the example there, another example for us at that night in that particular temple. He stayed back to hear from his Guru Maharaj. And Prabhupada actually wanted, I remembered in the old days, since we're talking about 40 years ago, old days, Prabhupada, one time he requested the GBC that all the devotees should come to the Mayapur festival. All the devotees should come to the Mayapur festival. Hare Krishna. Sridham. This is the Brajbasis. He's born here, he lives here, and he'll die here. And he's offering respects to us. He's offering respects to Prabhupada, because we're the product of Prabhupada's mercy. He said if you were born in Vrindavan, if you live in Vrindavan, you die in Vrindavan, either any one of those, you go back to Golo. He has three. His assistant listens to me speak. Doesn't speak a word of English. Take it. Baba. We are one of you. We want to be like you. Where was I?
The Mayapur Festival.
Oh, Mayapur Festival. Prabhupada said everyone should come, but all the GBC men, all the collection will go down. That's all right, Prabhupada said. Everyone must come to the Dham. Spend time in the Dham. The Dham is a expansion of Lord Balaram. Balaram is Krishna's elder brother. So elder brother takes care of the younger brother. But because Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, technically speaking, Balaram's an expansion. He's the first expansion. So he considers himself subordinate. So he serves Krishna in many ways. He expands as the Chamara fan, as the bed of Krishna, the slippers of Krishna. And he also expands as the Dham. So the Dham, you're sitting on the Dham. You're allowed to. We get permission. But this one reason that these amazing pastimes can take place, because this particular place is the wrestling capital of India. You might think, oh, where's all the big skyscrapers and the buildings? No. This is Braj. We don't search after opulence and grandeur. Vrindavan is very simple. It's a bond, it's a forest. But this is the wrestling capital of India. And every boy who's born here is meant to become a wrestler. Seriously. Every house, they had boys, and they're all proud of their boys. They start training. See behind that little boy there? He must be about, 2? He's already wrestling. They're very proud to be wrestlers. And I have a good friend here, a wrestler who I met many years ago, and he was national champion for many years.
The same guy.
Oh, that was him?
Same, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't recognize him. This is my friend. He's national champion wrestler for many years. Give him a big round of applause. So where does wrestling fit into Krishna consciousness? I mean, we don't wrestle at the Soho Temple or Bhaktivedanta Manor, or probably in Houston they don't wrestle. But wrestling is a very, very integral part of our tradition. Because what do the the boys do. The cowherd boys, they have sakyaras, a friendly relationship with Krishna. They wrestle. Frogs and snails and puppy dog tails, that's boys. And sugar and spice and everything nice, that's you girls. Frogs and snails and puppy dog tails, and sugar and spice and everything that's nice, that's the girls. So boys, they like to play. I mean, I remember when I was a boy, I'd wrestle a lot, with my friends. So that comes from the spiritual world. Everything we do here, not everything, no sinful activity, but the emotions that we experience, they're all there in the spiritual world except for envy. There's no envy. If there's envy, you take birth in France or Germany or Botswana. Just like thunder and lightning take place simultaneously. So as soon as the living entity who's in the spiritual world, because we have a small amount of independence, we can say yes or no, and it never goes away. So a minute, very tiny amount of jivas, they say, I want to be like Krishna. Chicago. Your name's John or Mary, and you're going to be a psychologist or a lawyer or a businessman, or you're going to fight in the army and die for your country. But we're all eternal servants of Krishna. So this desire to wrestle, that's there in the spiritual world, but not in Madhurya Ras, or not in Vatsalya Ras, but in Sakya Ras. And the boys they wrestle, because that's Braj. You will not find, you can search this Braj Mandala from north to south and east to west and up and down, although it's limitless, but to give us an idea how big it is, 84 crores in dimension. You will not find one iota of Aishwarya Bhav, awe and reverence. Of course, in ISKCON, and all sadhakas actually are practicing, worshipping Krishna in the mood of Aishwarya Bhav, because we don't want to be sahajas and take Krishna cheaply, especially his loving affairs with the gopis. So we worship Krishna and Radha like king and queen. Like in our temples, when we dress Krishna and we dress Radha, they don't look like that in the forest. You don't see any pictures or paintings here in Vrindavan of Krishna with the big crown and, royal dress and this and that. No, he's got a dhoti on, a little sash. Radharani's got gopi dress. Okay, she's not wearing a sari, I get it. She's wearing a gopi dress or whatever, but it's very simple. But we worship Radha and Krishna in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. It's faster, and we're the servant. And we read the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. We understand the majesty of Krishna, how great he is. But then the greatness is revealed to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas in his intimate, loving relationships with his devotees. Just like your dad. He goes to the office, and he works hard all day long, and he drives his car back to the traffic. And he's a big man. When he comes home, he plays horsey with you. You get on his back and you ride him around. So Vaikuntha is the official kingdom of God. Vaikuntha. It's the official kingdom. It's all very official. Rules, regulation, Dwarka. When Krishna comes into Dwarka, it's very beautiful, that painting. You see all his devotees. It's another type of love. Krishna's coming in. There's Shamara fans, there's elephants. But when Krishna walks around Vrindavan, he walks in bare feet. Mother Yasoda is so in anxiety. Her son's going into the forest where there's thorns. Have you experienced the thorns and the pebbles? So Mother Yasoda is thinking, my son's feet are going to get pricked. So she tells Krishna, you have to wear some shoes. Krishna says, no. She says, why? Krishna says, because my cows don't wear shoes. So why should I wear shoes, Mommy? So she agrees. There's no Aishwarya Bhav here. Sadhakas, yes, but we understand the goal. We're hankering for that relationship as a cowherd boy or the parental mood or the Madhurya Ras. Actually, all the rasas, they serve the Madhurya Ras. In one way or another, it's understood that Madhurya Ras prevails Vrindavan and all the other rasas, just like the Priyanarma Shakas. There's some cowherd boys, they got it. They know when Krishna says, I'm going to find a stray cow, it's about noon. They look at each other and wink. They're not other boys. Okay, Krishna, come back quickly. They know Krishna's going to meet Radha at 12 noon at Radhakund. They know that because Priya Dharmasaka, they have a more intimate relation, understanding. They're serving that Madhurya Ras. So, they escort Krishna maybe, or they send messages. Krishna's coming. The gopis when they tell Radha he's coming, and she stops crying because he's late. These boys, they facilitate like that. Actually, when Krishna's going through the forest, when they're wandering through the forest, I was reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur the other day. There's different groups of cowherd boys with different moods and different rasas. And as the cowherd boys and the cows are going to the forest, Krishna's going to different groups of boys and associating with them according to their mood and according to their rasa. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us. So, the boys, they like to wrestle. And because of the intimacy of that friendship, Krishna allows himself sometimes to be conquered by the love of his devotees. Love reigns supreme. So sometimes he pretends that he's been conquered by the boys, and he has to carry the coward boys on his shoulder. That's what you do when you lose. You take the coward boy and you kind of walk around. Yeah, he won, like the boys here. They're trying to pick him. So sometimes Krishna picks up, he wrestles with Sridham. I was reading, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was saying, sometimes after Krishna comes back from being with Radharani, pastimes at Radhakund last for 5.5 hours. But the cowherd boys are thinking it's only a few minutes. Why is that? It's the pastime potency. Just as the pastime potency expands the Leela to last for a long time. For example, when Krishna dances with the gopis, it's a night of Brahma. It's an actual night of Brahma. It's not pretend. It's not playhouse in Vrindavan. It's the real deal. The pastime potency expands to make that pastime last a night of Brahma. But the same pastime potency constricts the pastime of Krishna with the gopis or Radharani at Radhakund. It goes 5.5 hours, but for the cowherd boys it seems like a few minutes. It constricts. Instead of making it longer, it appears to the cowherd boys, oh, Krishna's only been gone for 5 minutes. Why? Because if Krishna had been gone longer than 5 minutes, they would start getting really anxiety. Maybe he got devoured by a demon. Maybe Krishna got lost. They think like that. He's a Vigyana Swarat. He's everywhere and he knows everything. And his grandeur. But in Braj, they're worrying, well, maybe he got lost. Krishna got lost. And they start crying and their bhav, their love increases. But most important, if they had known that Krishna was gone for longer than 5 minutes, they would have started searching for him. Now in Radhakund, with the girls, why is he with the girls? Just making it very simple to understand. But more important, they would have interrupted that time with Sri Radha. And that. So after 5.5 hours, which the cowherd boys think is only 5 minutes, Krishna comes back, and there's a shoving match between him and Sridham that they like to play. So they're shoving back like this, and then it stops. And Krishna leaves for Well, he continues his pastimes in the forest, and then he starts heading for Nandagram. And Radharani, she's seeing Krishna going, and she becomes like a statue. And she starts crying and makes a small puddle of her tears as Krishna's going away. But she can't follow because that's not Braj. There's social customs here, and the girls don't associate with the boys. So she knows that Krishna's on his way to Nandagram, which means he has to pass through Yavat. You have Radhakund, then you have Yavat, then you have uh, Nandagram, then you have Varshana. That's the map. You have the Radhakund, then you have Yavat, then you have Nandagram, then you have Varshana. So when Krishna has to take all the cows home in the evening, he has to pass through Yavat. So what does Radharani do when she gets back to Yavat? She gets back, before Krishna passes by with all the cows to go home. She goes into the kitchen and she starts cooking for Krishna. It's the only way she can bear the separation, is to do something for Krishna. Prabhupada said in Bhakti Yoga, we're active. We're not like, the monas. Oh, Bhakti Yoga means you're active. It's love. Like the boy says to the girl, I love you. So she said, prove it. Buy me a flower or a diamond ring. Show your love. Love means to show your love. So our service is love. We never think of it as hard labor. It's a precious commodity in our lives. After millions and millions of lives with no seva, okay, I'll sweep the temple room floor, no problem. So Radha, she goes to Yavan and she starts cooking. And then she finishes the cooking. And then she's always looking out the window. When's Krishna going to come by? I want to see him again. When's he going to come by? But every time she passes the window, there's no, the cowherd boys and Krishna are not passing by. So she goes into great anxiety. And finally she faints. I'll not see him again today. We stand for 5 minutes in front of the deity and we leave. But a person who's really Krishna conscious, you have to pull them away from the deity. They don't just see, it's nice hair. Like, they understand. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. Ronnie, she's been separated for millennia, right? Oh, Govinda, feeling her separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, feeling all vacant in the world in her absence. It's like millenniums since she's seen Krishna. She's experiencing like that. So she faints unconscious. Then it's described that Krishna actually starts coming. He's starting to come. But she's unconscious. So she doesn't see the golden cloud of dust. She doesn't see the peacock feather of Krishna coming over the horizon. She doesn't hear the flutes and the bugles. It's described that the cowherd boys and Krishna and Balaram, as they're coming towards Yavat, to let the people of Yavat know they're coming, because they're all Krishna Bhaktas, and what's more, to let the people in Nandagram know. That's way far away. They start blowing their bugles and their horns. And it's described that everyone's playing a different horn, a different instrument, but they're all playing in unison on the same note. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. They're playing the same note. Everybody, it's like mystical. I think, wow. But Radha doesn't hear it because she's unconscious. So Rati Manjari comes and tries to wake her up. How does she wake her up? Krishna, 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 Krishna. So Radharani, then she looks and she can see through this golden dust, because when the cows are going, they make dust. We make dust. If you're in the back of the Parikrama party. So, but who can't see? Who can't see Krishna? Who can't see Balaram? Who can't see the cowherd boys? Who can't see the cows? The Devatas. Devatas, they come on their flower airplanes, they hover above, and they want to see Krishna's pastimes. Sometimes they're blessed to see, but not so often. Not so often. They can't see through the golden cloud of dust. They can't see Krishna and Balaram because of they're Sakama devotees. They're devotees, and they're better devotees than us, because look where they are and look where we are. they're in the flower airplanes up there. But their Sakama means that they hold on to some material desires. Why? When you have the opportunity to become Krishna conscious, why hold on to those obstacles which really have caused you suffering birth after birth after birth? Like Vishnu Jan Maharaj, when I met him for the first time, 1969, he was in the park chanting with the devotees, and I was married at that time, and I came with my former wife. We weren't devotees. We were just looking for something spiritual. I said to her, "What is that?" She said, "It sounds like heaven." So we went, and there was Mr. John. He's very tall. And Brahmananda, he was very fat. And Gargamuni was counting the money. And Subal was just spaced out looking at Shastra. So the kirtan stopped. So I heard Hare Krishna. So I said to Maharaj, all the students left. There was a big crowd of students. And they all left. You know, they were intellectuals. It was Ann Arbor University, very intellectual. So he said, he looked, he said, "You have any questions?" I said, "Yeah, who's Krishna?" He said, "Let me tell you about my spiritual master." So he talked for 2 hours about Prabhupada. And at the end he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Can he be my spiritual master?" He said, "You have to associate with devotees." So I said, "But you're a devotee, right?" I said, "You come stay with me for 5 days." So they came. Stayed in my apartment for 5 days. That's what it took to make me a devotee. 5 sannyasis, 5 days of cooking, Vishnu Jan Maharaj's lectures and his kirtans. So one time Maharaj told me, he said that Prabhupada scolded him one time. He was in a mood of scolding. He said, uh, you've been in this material world since time immemorial. You've been everywhere. You've done everything. You traveled to 8,400,000 species of life again and again and again. Are you happy? Mara said, I said no to Prabhupada, he said. So he said, why not just give this one life to Krishna? Just try it. Why not? You've tried this, you've tried that. You know, one thing you haven't done is surrender Atma Nivedanam fully to Krishna. So Maharaj told me at that time he committed himself to give his whole heart to Prabhupada, whole heart to the practice of Krishna consciousness, his whole heart to spreading Krishna consciousness. He's a famous devotee. Even today he's famous. So Devatas, with all due respect, I don't want to offend the demigods, they retain some desire. And all those desires fall into 4 categories. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's a summary of material existence. There's sub categories. But it's all based on eating, anamoya. Like animals that just think about eating all day. Sleeping, sex life, defending, fighting wars, protecting my reputation. Everything falls. What's that compared to kirtan? Do you dance in ecstasy? Like we know when you satisfy our material desires? Maybe to take intoxication. That's the only way people can feel a little bit at ease when they start drinking or saying, no. Next day, wah, wah, wah. We wake up the next morning, more kirtan! Let's go on parikama! So the demigods, they couldn't see this golden dust. And Krishna walking, playing his Venu. So Turibanga Sundara with his eyes, to his ears, lotus eyes, his nose like sesame flower, lips red like the bimba fruit, teeth just like rows of pearls, like the conch three lines here. Sham Sundar, bluish black like a monsoon cloud, tinged with the red, but almost translucent his body. Satchidananda Vigraha, bending in 3 different places, wearing the Vajjayanti garland, 5 types of flowers down to the ankles. They couldn't see. So the purport is that we can't see either. We shouldn't think ill of them. We're in a similar position. So we have to chant very enthusiastically, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So then Radha, she comes to the window, and Krishna passes by, and they just glance. It's a sidelong glance like that. She looks at Krishna, and Krishna looks at her. But that's santushti, fully satisfied for Radha, that exchange. And then she faints again. She faints again. And Krishna continues on. She's up in the moon tower. She's just like a doll. She's frozen in her ecstasy. And 2 hours later, she comes to her senses. That's just a way of saying it. Of course, she's fully conscious, Vrindavaneshwari. And she remembers the preparations she'd cooked for Krishna. So she calls down, she comes down the moon tower, running to her quarters. And she says to Rati Manjari, Rati, follow me, follow me, follow me. And then Rati comes and she whispers something in Rati Manjari's ears. She's telling her to go to Nandagram with the prasad. So Rati gives her a garland, she gives sandalwood paste, and she gives the prasad. They go quickly to Nandagram, where Krishna has arrived, and they present all this prasadam to Krishna, along with a letter from Srimati Radharani. Radharani wrote a letter to Krishna, how she's missing him so much. Like that. So, and of course the cowherd boys, they've all gone back to their different residences. But, you know, they wrestle, that's what they do. That's why Prabhupada installed Krishna Balaram in the center altar in our temple in Vrindavan, because that's Raman Reti. That's another place they would wrestle in the sand. You don't want to wrestle on concrete. You don't want to wrestle on sharp stones. They wrestle on the soft sands like that. And Krishna loses. But sometimes, Krishna always wins. Oh, thank you. Is there anything for them? I just hope there's not some big monkeys here because they're going to jump on me. And here and guard me. So sometimes, you know, because there's different flavors to different rasas. Sometimes Krishna loses, but sometimes he never wins. That's the pastime potency. Every time they're wrestling, Krishna wins. He's always winning. Oh, I thought that was... In this particular bhav here in this town, this is why it's a wrestling town. The bhav is that Krishna always wins. That's the bhav here. Maybe he loses. Here, in this village, he always wins. So nobody knew what to do. They wanted to go to the cowboys. You got to lose sometime. So what did they do? They called Srimati Radharani to come here and wrestle with Krishna. And who won? Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. Radharani wins because she has the Mahabhav. Mahabhav, Radharani, she has that Mahabhav. She conquers Krishna with her love. So they're wrestling, and Krishna is wrestling with his most beloved, and her love's overpowering. He gives up. You won. And you should have seen the cowherd girls. Woo! They're cheering. Yay! Radhe, 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 like that. So that's why this town is famous. This is where that pastime, this was where Radha conquered again and again. She's conquered Krishna with her love in the wrestling match. So therefore this village is famous all over India because since that time, everybody, that's the mood, this is Sridham's village. This is where Sridham lives. We've been going to the villages, the Sakis, Tunga Vidya, right? Induleka, Vishaka, Lalita. We've been to all those. Now we're going to the Saka villages. This is where Sridham's from. He wrestles. He shoves Krishna back and forth. We've come here. I don't know if the Brajmandal Parikrama comes here. I don't think so. This is beyond Kamyavan. You have to go long. You sit in the bus. You have to sleep because 5:30 we left. We wake up. Where are we? We're past Kamyavan or any Parikrama party. We're beyond Kamyavan. We're in all the Sakas live. Sridham's village, where Krishna lost to Srimati Radharani. That is the sum and substance of this place. And so now, we've only been here 5 minutes, right? It only seems like 5 minutes because in the spiritual world, everything's eternal. So you don't notice the passing of time. That's the meaning of eternal. You're not conscious of the past. You're not conscious of the future. There was a book when I was young, Be Here Now. This is the only way to be here now. Fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And that we experience here. We're aspiring devotees, but you feel very full. You feel very enriched when you come like this. And the Brajabasis, imagine you're in North Dakota or something in America, or you're in Alice Springs or something, you visit a village, and do the people come and give you food? And do they sing with you? Do they dance with you? No, I tell you, in the States, if you go with a kirtan party, they'll probably pull out their shotguns and get out of town. Here, they dance with us. Here, the light years ahead of us, they sit and listen to our katha. What is this? This is Braj. That's why you have to, come out into the villages to know what is Vrindavan. And that's why this Parikrama is so special, because, we're going places that no man has ever gone before. Meaning that it's generally devotees don't come. So this is a special privilege you're enjoying today. Very special privilege. And you can see the pastime potency. The kirtans are very nice. And I'm sure these bananas are delicious. So we're going to breakfast now. I'm sorry about yesterday. Because I'm just so excited out here. I forgot about breakfast and I forgot about lunch. And 2 o'clock, I'm going, hi, everybody. And you're like, meow. I'm like, rah. You're like, meow. And I figured because you didn't eat. And Rasik is always on my case. Gurudev, what about breakfast? I said, okay. So I told you, isn't it yesterday, to bring your lunches or your breakfast. If you didn't bring your breakfast, Krishna's taking care of you. You're his devotees, and you're trying to love him by going on parikrama. So he has all these 1,000 bananas, 100. Okay, so we have apples here. So you can come forward. We'll give you an apple, and we'll have some guards around because the monkeys here are humongous. They're really big monkeys. Okay, and then are we going to another place?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already 10 o'clock. I see. Huh? I have 10 o'clock. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock.
Oh my gosh. We've been here 5.5 hours. It seems like 5 minutes. All glories to the pastime potency of Shri Vrindavan Dhama ki. Vrindavan Parikrama ki. Sakyaras ki. Sridham Sakya ki. Krishna Balaram ki. Shri ki, Radha Shyam ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. All glories to the Brajavasis ki. Hare Krishna.